Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, with our main topic today. Well, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ambassador Ahmed Hafiz on the International Migrants Day on the 18th of December said that Egypt is proud of hosting 6 million people, migrants and refugees, and Egypt is also keen to provide them a decent life, guarantee their rights and enhance their integration into Egyptian society. He added that Egypt's celebration with the International Day for Migrants showed that Cairo is keen to keep its doors open for migrants and refugees who left their homes and families for a better life. Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to host today our dear guest, Mr. Ashraf Milad, migration studies expert, and also worked with the UN Refugees and Human Rights. Good afternoon, Mr. Milad.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Milad, how do you see the importance of the statements by the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ahmed Hafiz? And also, this is also since President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi came to office 7 years ago, the President was keen to keep the rights of the refugees and migrants in Egypt, and also the President provided the migrants in Egypt decent life, and also providing also them to be included in the 100 million health in Egypt.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say that Egypt is making an effort in the past few years, especially after the issue of the irregular migration, which ended with the disaster of Rashid in 2016. So Egypt ever since is working on the providing better services even for refugees in order and migrants as well, in order to make the situation better. These efforts, of course, some refugees, even like some clients of mine, would come and tell me that maybe the situation is being facilitated in a way, especially in obtaining some documents. Maybe previously the situation was even more difficult in order to issue like birth certificates, in order to have the medical checkup, in order to have treatment. Egypt also in some situations that allowed some of the international agencies to work in Egypt to provide specific kind of medical assistance for refugees and migrants as well.
Yes. Don't you see that by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi including the migrants in Egypt with the 100 million health care here in Egypt is a kind of letting the refugees and migrants feel that they are at home?
Yes, and in addition to this, that while getting this kind of services, that they're not asked even for their residency permit, which could be a problem previously. Now, they're just, once you have any...
Yes, you are allowed to stay, not like other countries.
In other countries, yeah, the situation could differ in a way or another, yes, but we're talking about Egypt in particular, especially when it comes to medical checkup for the HIV, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, it's totally facilitated for them.
So Egypt is dealing with all the migrants as Egyptian citizens.
In most cases, especially in provision of basic services.
Also,
of course,
Egypt is not providing them camps or something. They are living in houses, you know, everywhere in Cairo, everywhere in Egypt, between us all.
That's true, yeah. Especially that when it comes to those who are returned from neighboring states, many countries that they would establish what is called platform for the returned migrants, but in Egypt, no. We can say that they're mingled in a way or another in the society.
So the whole world is celebrating the International Migrants Day on the 18th of December. Right. How do you see how Egypt is so proud, because it's one of the most famous countries in the world, providing migrants all their rights?
That's true. The United Nations started marking the 8th of December, starting from the year 2000. So it's like 21 years now.
Yes.
So Egypt is, while hosting migrants and refugees from many nationalities, even we are still hosting migrants from Europe,
Yes.
from Greece, from Italy, and even from Armenia. We have like the third generation now. Some of them decided to obtain the Egyptian citizenship. Some of them, they still have their identity, but they're still, especially in Alexandria, and even many drama was done about these people who live in Alexandria, like to show that Egypt is some kind of cosmopolitan kind of state, hosting people from different cultures, different
Yes.
backgrounds, which is also, I think, this is from the very beginning, from the beginning of the history of Egypt. You know, it's overlooking two major seas, so it's accepting foreigners and just like allowing them to live properly. Yeah.
But Egypt is not differentiating between Egyptian citizens and other nationalities, migrants here.
When it comes to what? This is the question. Like,
You
yeah,
said
for health, as you indicated,
Yes.
yes, that's
Yes.
true. When it comes to education, yeah, they're receiving like basic education,
Yes.
especially those who have residency permit. Sometimes those who are residing irregularly, they could have some kind of problem getting
Yes.
enrolled in schools. However, their community schools are providing the education for them without this kind of permission. So it's so they cannot be outside school
Yes.
for a long time. Yeah.
Yes. Also, when it comes to Egyptian people, also the Egyptian people are friendly people and welcome all the nationalities. What makes migrants choose to come to Egypt?
Okay, sometimes according to, you're talking about migrants, okay, but let me talk about refugees first, because refugees.
What's the difference between refugees and
okay,
migrants?
a refugee is a person who
Are
has
forced to
has
to
a
flee.
compelling reasons to
Yes.
to move from his country to. So if I'm a refugee, I would like to select the first. It's called the first safe country.
Yes.
So even by law, why didn't you pick the first safe country? So we're in the region, in the Middle East and
This is a
Africa.
very important point that this shows that Egypt is a safe country.
It
Yes.
is, yes,
Yes,
of course. From the beginning of the first waves of migration, yeah, Egypt
Yes.
is the first safe country. And if I passed Egypt and went to another country to apply to seek asylum, for example, I would be asked, why didn't you seek asylum in the first safe country, which is Egypt, for
Yes.
example? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So that's it. Yeah, that means that Egypt is welcoming people, and as you indicated, that it could absorb even different cultures.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Egypt have received 6 million migrants. So what are the most famous nationalities that flee to Egypt?
Okay. In fact, that I cannot compete with the authority declaring 6 millions. I don't know whether there are 6 millions or maybe more, maybe less. But of course, Sudanese are the majority of them. Since the 40s and the beginning of the 50s, even we have some kind of the Egyptian army brigades are Sudanese, when Egypt and Sudan were one state. Many of them, like hundreds of thousands of them, refused to return to Sudan after the independence of Sudan in 1956. So they integrated into Egypt. Other nationalities maybe could be the Syrians, Iraqis, Libyans, Yemenis, and other African nationalities like Ethiopians, Eritreans, Somalis. Despite any kind of dispute with the country of origin, these people are living in Egypt.
Yes.
And yes, I don't think that there is some kind of discrimination from the people themselves.
Yes. So, Mr. Milad, how does Egypt absorb all this number of refugees or migrants, and why does Egypt does not use the refugee camps?
Okay, Egypt, first of all, that is against the idea of hosting refugees in a camp.
In camps.
Like it's a sort of segregation.
Yes.
Even sociologists call it a totalitarian kind of entity. You're putting people in a segregation. So Egypt is against this, maybe for some political, for some even sometimes security reasons, to protect these people by mingling them.
Yes.
But being in a camp on the borders, like many other countries, This is for the countries which cannot provide kind of safety for the refugees. But living in the city, living in the urban areas is the best option, of course, like in Europe, for example. Yeah.
Yes. So what are the kind of services that Egypt provides for migrants?
Okay, maybe the medical assistance in a limited manner, but
Yes.
Also through the UNHCR, United Nations High Commission for Refugees.
Safety.
Oh, what safety? Yeah,
Yes.
it's a provision of safety, but I'm talking about the tangible
Kind of services, yes.
through the implementing partners of UNHCR, especially like allowance, monthly allowance, food vouchers
Yes.
are provided by NGOs and INGOs.
Yes. Are there any communities or organizations that provide help for migrants, for example, living in Egypt, in order to start a new life and start working in Egypt?
Yes, some local and international NGOs even they provide not only training them for like in vocational training centers, but also providing them with the basic tools
Yes.
of starting their own
Business.
crafts. Yes, and
Yes.
business. In
What
addition,
are the facilities that Egypt provide them?
okay, Egypt through some NGOs and even some entities like the Ombudsman, the National
Yes.
Council for Motherhood and Childhood, they would provide women that, like part of women empowerment, provide them with like sewing machines, for example. Provide men. I saw that some of my clients, they were given a box with like the tools to work as a barber, you know,
Yes.
like to cut people's hair, and
Yes.
some people that are helped with a loan just to start like a small, what we call cuisine. Cuisine means like a local restaurant,
Yes.
like affiliated with the culture
Yes.
of the migrant or the refugee himself.
Yes. What are the most jobs that attracts the migrants?
Okay, being vendors, some of them in the area of Ardelewa, for example, they have like many restaurants and shops which would sell the cultural goods, something like incense, like perfumes,
Yes.
customs. This is like in many
Yes.
of the areas which hosts migrants and refugees, you could find many of these shops which could be opened easily with a small amount
Yes.
of capital, I
Yes.
mean, if I may say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So, Mr. Milad, how does the flow of the migrants to Egypt would affect the economy of Egypt? What are the positives and the negatives?
Okay, as you indicated, we are more than 100 million. So like
Yes.
few millions are not going to affect the situation. They're not going even to affect the culture. On the contrary, like they could provide some kind of competence between locals and those migrants. Some of them, like they have like very good handcrafts. Some they know the types of business like tailors, like the Syrians. They're very good in tailoring, providing as tailors, working in restaurants. Like they have like this kind of restaurants. So I don't think that they constitute a problem. Like some neighboring states, like refugees and migrants, could represent like 25% of the total population. Maybe in this
Yes.
case, we could question whether they affect the culture, maybe they affect the economy or not. But like, let's say that 2-3% is not a big number.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
if I may
So,
say. Yeah.
Mr. Milad, through the history of Egypt, the Egyptians always accepted the others and also always welcomed foreigners. So, how to say the importance of the flow of migrants to Egypt in, acting like a kind of exchanging culture between Egypt and other countries and knowing the cultures of other countries?
That's true. I mean, let's start even from last century.
Yes.
The beginning of the century, that was like World War I, so many migrants from Greece, Armenia, and Italy. And then starting from 1948, Palestinian migrants, they came and resided in Egypt. They still have their business here in Egypt. So even some kind of affecting not the culture, but adding to the culture. What's the
Yes.
meaning of culture? Culture means something cumulated. So if we host people from different nationalities, from different cultures, like the food, sometimes, okay, this is
Yes.
originated from the migrants who came
From Syria, for
from
example.
Syria,
Yes.
for example.
Yes.
Even some of the words we're using are originally Italian.
Yes.
Some of the crafts we were taught by, like, the Italians and Armenians. Armenians, for example, are very good in jewelries.
Yes.
For example, so they would teach, if you go to Al-Sagha area,
Yes.
where jewelries are there, many of them they learned from Armenians.
Yes.
So this kind of, let's say, that input from
Exchange.
exactly, and also, as I said, like when it comes to food, when it comes to even learning how to deal with the sea, for example, sailors, they learn from the Italians issues related to sailing, for example.
Yes, yes,
That's
yes. So, Mr. Milad, you've worked with the UN Refugees Program and also Human
Human
Rights.
Rights.
Could you give us an idea about this?
Okay, I work in several places. For UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees,
Yes.
in Western Sahara, which
Yes.
was, and in Yemen, even in Egypt, and worked for UN Human Rights in Gaza, which the situation was a little bit difficult, and also I worked in Yemen, but I didn't work in Yemen because
Yes.
the situation of war was dangerous, so we worked remotely from another country. So this, of course, all these places, of course, added to the knowledge and gave you the idea that what is the difference between cultures, how do host communities accept the others. Like, for example, in Western Sahara, those in Algeria, hosting people coming from Western Sahara in the camps there. So how come that they coexist together? So of course it could give you an indication that to what extent that even societies in the Middle East, despite the wars, but they still can accept the others and can host them, can
Yes.
coexist with them.
Yes. So, Mr. Milad, how does the government in Egypt manage the refugee file, and also what are the sources or, making Egyptians make a source of funding for this file of refugees?
Okay. As indicated, Egypt is bound by the refugee law. Egypt is signatory state to the two main conventions, the International Convention, the 1951 Convention, and 1969 Organization of African Union Convention relating to the status of refugees. Egypt ratified the 1951 Convention in 1981, so a long time ago, one of the first states in the region that ratified the 1951 Convention. Maybe Egypt is paying some extra attention in the past few years for migrants and refugees, maybe as we indicated, because of the issue of irregular migration.
Yes.
And as far as I know recently, that Egypt is in the final stage of drafting a law for refugees. So we are all expecting this to facilitate some issues, because when you refer to an international convention, sometimes it's difficult. But when you refer to a domestic legislation, if you're a lawyer, that it's easy even just to argue with the authorities based on a domestic legislation, because according to international law, there are two types of ratification of conventions.
Yes.
Some countries could have like dual system and mono system. Mono system, you have an international convention and you are applying it. But in Europe, no, they issue a legislation, a law, domestic law based on the convention, which Egypt is now drafting. I mean, I learned recently that it's in the final stage, which we are all positive about it, because it will make the life of refugees better, hopefully. And what's the other part? So I talked a lot, I'm sorry, but what's the last part of the question?
Very quickly, because we're running out of time,
Okay.
Actually, what are the most important reasons that drive people to flee their countries?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good question. According to the convention, 1951 convention, there are 5 reasons that if you are facing well-founded fear of being persecuted on one of
Some people flee their countries and there are no conflicts there.
these are called economic migrants, and they don't fall under the category of refugees, by the way. Maybe a country would accept them or not. It's up to them. You're not running for your life. You're running for a better situation. And some people even could come as a transit, and then they would move to another country. But if you are persecuted, maybe because of your political opinion, because of your religion, your ethnicity, your nationality, or member, these are the 5 reasons indicated in the 1951 convention. And the OAU convention, Organization added that